Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for spending your time in the Tiger's Den. We will try not to waste it. It is Wednesday, January 25th, 2023 AD. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going over the infiltration of the alternative media, radicalization tactics, as well as the co opting throughout social media using algorithmic bear traps. Hold on tight, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the tiger by the tail. With us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, roaring for liberty, the colossus of JFK investigators. His laser beam focus is so on target, the mainstream media has turned him into the invisible man. Gary Allen holds his beer. Lions are envious of his courage. Author of Hidden History, Survival of the Richest, Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, and many more. The king of the investigative journalism jungle, and one heck of a nice guy, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Don Jeffries. And also joining us this evening, although you might not be able to see him, the human excavator of information, digging so deep he brought us egg rolls back from China. An interdimensional researcher turning over every asteroid and stone in the galaxy to provide information for the masses. Jabba the Hutt has a bounty on him. Time traveler and shapeshifter researcher, and co-host for the New Prisoner broadcast. Researcher for Donald Jeffries, the host of Digging Chris Graves, also the host of Getting Mad with Chris Graves on the Ocelli Effect. He brings the proof for the pudding in a 5-gallon bucket, ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Chris Graves. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a big roar. All right, got it off the loop. Sorry about that. I don't have my super producer Jason Barker with me tonight. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much.
That's impressive, man. I mean, that's you already have a better opening than I've ever had. Chris has a great one too. I don't know how you guys are doing it, and I love the lines roars. And I don't know what I can say about the introduction, but that I feel like thanking the Academy after that, so I appreciate it.
Well, no, you guys are superstars, and I'm going to treat you that way. You guys have been, everybody's invisible here, right? I got two invisible superstars, especially you, Mr. Jeffries. I mean, they all, but like I said, you're the invisible man,
Yeah, well, it gets frustrating, and it's hard not to. But I thank goodness for Substack. So Substack they haven't gotten to yet, and hopefully they don't get to it. But my presence is growing there, and it's the only place my presence is growing. And I'm getting more paid subscribers, and so getting more free subscribers, and I'm getting a lot of reads there. So that's nice that I have that outlet. But without that, I'd be very frustrated because Twitter is, I mean, I tweeted out to Elon Musk again saying, what happened? Why am I still shadow banned? And I also was protesting because I don't care what anybody thinks about these guys, Alex Jones, but now Nick Fuentes, apparently they brought him back and then banned him again. I just said, I don't understand. I thought this was going to stop. What's your criteria? And I got one reaction out of it. And needless to say, it wasn't Elon Musk. So they're blocking everything I do on Twitter now, and obviously Facebook. They've been doing that for a long time. So thank goodness for Substack. And my book is almost ready to come out about the pandemic, masking the truth. I mean, I'm just about done that, and I want to be promoting it everywhere. I don't know how much I can promote it if people don't see my promotions.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to promote when you're invisible. Chris.
Yeah.
What's going on with you this evening, brother?
Well, my camera decided to up and start hating on me. I didn't touch anything, so I'm a little mystified, and I have to agree with Mr. Jeffries. That was a great opening. I can't wait for David Knight and company to invite you guys back on there because you are quite the personality.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And back to Don's point. Don, I think it'd be a good idea. I'm going to push people to Substack. I think if we have a concentrated effort on pushing people into areas like Substack, like, the Free World FM that's coming up, stuff like that, push people into those areas and start using those platforms,
Yeah, no, I think we need to because it's just the only reason why I even care about Twitter or Facebook, because people say, why do you care about that? It's the establishment. But same thing with YouTube. As I've made this point many times that we can go to Rumble and BitChute. No, those are great. It's great that they have more freedom there. But the problem is in all those places, and certainly Trump's social, and I don't even have Truth Social or Telegram or any of those places, the Gab. The problem is that all those places you're preaching to the choir. You're not going to get many new converts. Everybody places is awake to some degree. I mean, they may not agree. You have a lot of people that love Trump still, so they may be turned off by when I criticize him or something. But for the most part, they're going to be awake. But that's why it was so crucial to stay on YouTube and to not be shadow banned on Facebook and Twitter, because that's where you can potentially reach new people. Because maybe somebody comes by that's just a normie and something that you say makes sense, and they'll pay attention. And so that's why it's devastating, and they know that. That's why they do it, because they don't want people to have a bigger impact. It's not that I need YouTube. I don't need to be with the people who have all the cat videos or anything like that. But we need to reach some of those people.
That's right.
We need to reach some of those people to grow and to try to overturn this this giant tyranny that we have.
Well, Don, as a small business guy, right? I had a fireworks business, right? And I had to advertise, right? And in doing that, I did some research on, the media, the social media, because I was old school. I press the flesh, shake your hand, let me talk to you. You got 3 minutes with a person, let's do it, right? But looking at the social media, I learned a lot. And this is the thing. I hate to, you got to be realistic about stuff. I don't like Twitter. I don't like any of this big tech stuff. I don't like it. I don't like the sound of a lawnmower when I'm out in the woods mushroom hunting. I don't want to hear any of that stuff, or, fishing or something like that. So, but to my point, we have to be practical and realistic about this. The dinosaur legacy media is taking a dive. We know that. People are getting their news and their information from social media. That's just a fact. And I hate to kowtow, and I won't. we're not on YouTube right now because they'll cancel us, right? But right. I do, Twitter, we've got a slivers of a chance, and Substack, if Substack could get more mainstream, which it's pretty popular if you look at its analytics. What do you think, Chris? Did we lose Chris?
Chris, you there? Jeez, they're really going all out. Yeah, he looks like he's there.
Yeah, no, I'm trying here. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
we were just basically saying how, unfortunately, we don't like these big tech company platforms, but because the legacy media is like fading out, newspapers nobody reads, people get their news from social media. We have to be practical and realistic about the fact that, hey, we have to, go on these platforms, and we have to try to reach people through these platforms. It's all we have, really.
Yeah, no, it's a constant struggle now. Don wasn't kidding. He put out a couple of things for his Substack, for this new show I'm doing with our fellow researcher, Peter Seakosh. Yeah. And no one, I usually get Don's stuff. Yeah. I didn't even get it. So he's shadow banned pretty hard.
Right. Yeah, no, I noticed that. It's all, everyone is. You go to Tony Arterburn, shadow banned. You go to Billy Ray, shadow banned. You go to David Knight, shadow banned. And this is the thing. They're even shadow banned within our community. So the algorithms are supposed to put everything together for you. So you get content that's, he's friends with Don Jeffries. Don Jeffries is posting. He's going to see this post. You posted something the other day, and I said something about, I tagged Elon Musk, but you posted something the other day. I didn't see it for hours.
Yeah. That's a bit of,
But I had some donkey in a dress dancing on my timeline.
I apologize for that. I have impulses. You know what I mean? But I had to go search Don's post because he had told me about it, and that was the only way I could retweet it earlier today.
Right. No. Yeah, I get it, dude. I mean, it's just how it is. Unfortunately, that's just the way they're working things right now. So gentlemen, let's dive into this a little bit. I kind of want to get into, you guys already know this stuff, but what we're going to talk about tonight, I want to give the viewers a quick basis of what we're talking about. It exists, and we'll show you. So, this is where we're going to go. Definitely here we go. And social engineering. Okay. And what this says, I'm going to boost this up for everybody. Social engineering is a top-down effort to influence particular attitudes and social behaviors on a large scale, most often undertaken by governments, but also carried out by media, academia, or private groups in order to produce desired characteristics in a target population. I really probably don't have to go any further than that. That's from Wikipedia. That's right from a contaminated website there that we usually don't trust. But I want to get into this a little bit because I think that there's a large amount of social engineering going on in the mainstream media. So I think
this sounds like a caper for Hong Kong food.
So let's all put our Hong Kong Phooey hats on here and knock this out. Don, what do you know? Just real quick, just quick synopsis of some social engineering through history.
Well, it's no surprise that you would see something like this happening when certainly when YouTube, and I think the big push for censorship came after YouTube videos became so popular with Sandy Hook and Boston bombing and things like that. There were tons of those things out there, and they really were waking a lot of people up. Again, normies coming by because a lot of them, I was congratulating you on your opening and everything, but there's a lot of people out there like that can do better stuff that I can do, that were nice graphics and looked very professional, and they were destroying the official narratives of these incidents in real time. Like within a day, it was destroyed. So they had to get rid of them, and they had to take a different tact because in the past they've controlled opposition by COINTELPRO and programs like that. People don't, as I wrote about in Hidden History, I talked about how the infiltration of the left and the right go way back. And you look at the Black Panthers and the KKK, for instance, they've always been infiltrated with government infiltrators. And all you need to know is, Malcolm X, the guy that was at his side when he was assassinated, his bodyguard was a government agent. And right. So was Fred Hampton, the Black Panther killed by the Chicago police. And Martin Luther King's, not his bodyguard, but the guy that's cradling his head on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel was an ex-CIA, or was a CIA guy. So it's always been that way. And they're not going to, in this case, because these things like the YouTube videos, that's not part of any organized movement. So they can't infiltrate that really. I mean, they can try putting their own videos, and they do that stuff too. Yep. They put trolls out there to try to mislead people. But the best way for them, it's at some point, it just got so out of hand that they just said, we're just going to crack down on it. And they decided to use Sandy Hook. And then, of course, once they brought the pandemic in, then they had the medical misinformation and the election. So they could use all those things to just clamp down on basically any questioning of the authorities.
The anti-hospital videos. They started clamping down on those.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, and I'll have a lot about those in the book. I mean, it's amazing. And thanks to Chris that found a bunch of those on BitChute and elsewhere. I mean, those are gems because they say one picture is worth 1,000 words. That used to be the old expression. Well, one video, I guess, is worth millions of words. One of those videos, when you have people walking around New York City and you juxtaposing the MSNBC reporter saying, "Oh my God, everything's crisis, emergency rooms are overflowing," and then they're filming the nothing going on around any of the hospitals, and they're talking about the refrigerated bodies and all these big trucks that are refrigerated containing hundreds and hundreds of bodies, and you have these people walking up to them and zooming in and showing that all of them are turned off, so they can't be holding anybody. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff there's no way for them to answer that.
Right.
They can't kill all those guys, so they just eliminate their power to reach people. And that's just basically what we're doing when I'm talking about myself or Chris or anybody else. They limit, and that's why Chris and I talk about this. But that's why I take everyone at face value. I don't claim anyone's a CIA agent or whatever because he can't prove that. But because of what's happened to me, I have my doubts about people that I see in the alternative world that have tons and tons, have 200,000 followers or something on Twitter. I don't know how they do it, and I can't help but be suspicious.
Right. No, I agree with that 100%. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Don. Basically, what Don actually made me aware of, going way back before we ever met, I heard Don on a whole bunch of different radio interviews throughout, since Hidden History came out in 2013, 2014.
14, yeah.
Yeah, and there was one thing that really struck me that he had brought up. There's a lot of things actually with the Sandy Hook thing, but there was one thing he mentioned that he had either seen or heard about live, I think, and it had to do with like a priest. And then later on, I found out it was a Monsignor sitting there giggling and laughing during a Sandy Hook interview, talking about the parents and the dead children. And this guy's like giggling. And there was even people in the alternative media that it's long gone that actually did articles about this laughing priest or Monsignor, because they were calling it both at the time. And things like that got down the memory hole, and I think those type of things were put out on purpose with the media, because the media with a lot of different, I'm not saying that Sandy Hook was a drill, like a lot of people say that, because I don't know if it was. And I think that was a different kind of false flag psyop type thing. It was
Do you think people died, Chris? I have to ask that. I just have to ask that.
My gut feeling tells me that, and this is just a gut feeling, and it's almost like speculation, or it is speculation, but I do feel like people were murdered during that event. But I think there's an element that was introduced with things like Gabby Gifford's incident, the Batman Aurora movie theater shooting, even the Vegas thing, where now it's like a new level where the media kind of participates with whether it's a drill or, it is a false flag event that has drill elements to it. And what I mean by that is I think some of these over the top weird things that were put out for things like Sandy Hook, like coroners laughing, priests, parents, people walking in circles, people changing their story, 4 or 5 times within the same hour, or even sometimes the same interview. I think all that stuff was put out on purpose to kind of entrap, legitimate researchers and to scare anyone in the future from, daring to, ask, hey, this doesn't make any sense. So I think people did die there. A part of that is a lot of the reporting at first quoted these kids, that they did have a few kids that they would parade on TV during the Sandy Hook thing, like right after.
Right.
And even they seemed kind of off. But what I was noticing is that they were all mentioning how the intercom was put on and never shut off in the front office where the massacre supposedly began, and that all they could hear was the sound of gunfire and screams, like for like minutes and minutes. And I think, I have a feeling, just going all these message boards over the years, a lot of people were like making sense when they were talking about how during some of these school shooter drills, they would utilize things like sound effects tapes over the intercom and things like that. Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was just kind of putting 2 and 2 together. But I really do feel like some kids and some teachers were there, whether the school was open or not. I don't know. I mean, if you look at the footage from the helicopter, there's all kinds of like black mold all over the roof. And it seems like they don't have handicapped parking spaces or that are up to code.
Right. And there's a lot of minutia that people don't look at. And, if you have to look at that stuff, you can't ignore it. If you notice it, you can't ignore it. Right. And then you got the wild card, that Wolfgang guy. And back to Don's point. So there was the sour milk, right? There was the dirty MacGuffin, the cockroach in the bread, right? That, in my opinion, was, like Chris was saying, put out there to just
to trap people.
Right. Exactly. Make everybody look crazy. Make everybody look like crap.
Because at Columbine, they didn't have these weird Twilight Zone moments in the media. The last thing the parents would want to do during Columbine is have a camera in their face.
You know what? I
know someone personally that said that.
It's cool it's kind of cool you went into that, because basically what I got up here on the screen is this. This is deep history. This is kind of really a left wing site. I vetted it. But I vetted the information on there, right? So you're saying that through all these shootings and through all this stuff, there's false.
It all culminates with the Alex Jones trials.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
false flag or no
Trillions of dollars. That is insane. That wasn't for
Yeah.
Mr. Jones. That was a
Right.
warning to us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
So yeah, let me finish here real quick, Chris. So false flag to false flag, right? And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, we're not saying that they plan all of these false flags. Something happens and they have an operation. They say, oh, look at this event. Let us paste this operation onto this event. And some of them are false flags that they plan. You know, that's where my thinking
9/11
is.
had over 100 war games going on, drills.
Well, and this officially started this crap started in 1942 with the Office of War Information. So this website collected all the all the think tanks, the Tavistock Institute. Look at that. We got the Foundation for Economic, the Rand Corporation, Operation Mockingbird, the American Committee on United Europe. These are all think tanks. These are all intelligentsia think tanks. The Warren Commission, the Atlantic Council. I mean, I could go on and on, John. You guys all know these names.
Yeah.
I mean, and we even go, look, Top Gun is released with Pentagon support and financing in 1986. I mean, this is how heavy all of this stuff is. This is all these agencies are doing what they call COINTELPRO, social engineering through all these think tanks. And, the American public are the victims of this stuff. And, you watch TV with somebody and me and you see it, and other people, they're susceptible to it. And now it's in the social media, and they're provocateuring as well. What do you think,
Yeah.
John?
Yeah. Well, and what they do is they they try to trap people. They try to trap us. And I don't play their game. I'm one of the few that don't play their game. But I don't shy away from anything when they say, "Are you saying no kids died at Sandy Hook?" I say, look, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying that everything about it is questionable and you should be able to question it. There are lots of reasons to believe that this thing was fishy from top to bottom. And I always say too, as well, that in Bullyocracy, I wrote about, and you can thank Alex Jones. Alex Jones is one of the many good things he did in his early days. He's the first one that shone the light on these drills that they do. They actually do military drills in neighborhoods, but they do regular live shooter drills in public school systems all over the country. They've been doing it for decades.
Yeah.
You can look in the mainstream media and they'll talk about it openly. It's not a conspiracy theory. They're scripted and they're politically correct. It's never a climate change activist or a deranged BLM member. It's always a homeschool advocate, a gun nut, a white supremacist. It always fits that. Well, that's the shooter who's hired to play the role. They hire crisis actors who they claim don't exist. Well, that's who they hire for these things. And they use fake blood. They use fake victims. And it's a production they don't tell the children. And I'm talking about elementary school age children. Can you imagine any worse form of terrorism against children? To have them traumatized, believing there's a real shooter there and it's fake. Sometimes they don't tell the teacher. So my point is, we know this is acknowledged to be going on regularly for decades. So how much of a leap is it to go from there to questioning these supposed real shootings, which have a lot of the same elements? That because people think they're crisis actors there. So I don't play that game. Like when people, when somebody says, "Are you saying the Holocaust didn't happen?" Look, I question everything about history. Are you saying that, nobody died at Sandy Hook? Are you saying there's no such thing as COVID-19? Well, it's never been isolated. They tell you that. They've never isolated the strand. And so, you tell me. So that's the thing. I don't get and that's why they try to shut off debate. They think they can get you by, well, you're not going to go that far. I'm going as far as I want.
Right.
But, I have free speech and, I'm a free speech purist. So you're not going to get me to say, well, okay, we have to lock Alex Jones up or whatever guy. Look, you're not to lock anybody up. You can question Alex Jones, what his connections are, whatever, if he's working for someone else. I don't know any of that, but I do know that everybody has free speech. So I resent the fact when they try to set up straw men. And you're not saying that, right? I mean, you're not saying kids didn't die there. No, I'm not saying I don't know anything. I'm just saying that this thing, I mean, all you have to do is I use an example too of how deep these rabbit holes go. There was a school nurse there that was interviewed by a woman I know, a local newsman. I emailed her afterwards, Andrea McCarran. She interviewed the school nurse who waxed rhapsodic about how wonderful the mother was. and what a beloved kindergarten teacher at the school she was. Okay, well, as it turns out, she had no connection to the school at all, they tell us.
Yep.
So I emailed Andrea and said, well, what did you think of that? I mean, did you go back and question her? And she goes, well, I did wonder about that, but there was no conspiracy.
Yep.
That's what she said. She saw through what I was trying to say. And that's why you have a big one going on. The more I look at it, I'm getting sucked into this Damar Hamlin thing. I don't know, I know Chris is not a sports fan. I don't know if you are or not, Marco, but
no, not really.
Yeah, well, if you look, this guy supposedly, the Buffalo Bill guy, he allegedly, he collapsed on the field on a Monday Night Football game a few weeks back. And those of us who know all the soccer players that have dropped that, we thought, well, it's amazing no NFL player has yet. And so we figured he was dead. I mean, they took forever to get him away in an ambulance. They even had all the players kneeling around him except one player. There was only one player who was standing up. Guess what his jersey number was? 33. So again, this symbolism is everywhere. And Damar Hamlin supposedly made a remarkable recovery against all the odds. Supposedly the first question he asked in the hospital was, did we win? I mean, it's going back to win one for the Gipper or something. But now he leaves the hospital. There's no video. And this my friend Mike Huggins, who does the Vaccine Reaper report on Substack. Check it out. He's a very funny guy. I've got a lot of this stuff from him. He analyzed the video. There was no video of him leaving the hospital. I mean, where's the triumphant? You'd think that, we'd see Damar, leaving the hospital. No. And then the Buffalo Bills played last weekend in a playoff game. Damar Hamlin shows up at the stadium. Guess how he showed up? He showed up in a hoodie and sunglasses. His face was completely covered. And he stayed that way, even though he was inside. He was surrounded by security, so nobody could get near him. He wasn't there, smiling and waving to the fans and being questioned. This is the great hero. He was camouflaged. And he was giving these ridiculous Illuminati type hand signals up in the press box. So, I don't know what that means. Am I saying he's not dead or he's dead? All I know is that doesn't look.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. So I don't watch sports, right? So the guy came out basically mummified. You really couldn't tell who it was.
No,
they might have let a garbage bag over.
Could have been you or me. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now wouldn't you? I mean, you would think, first of all, you would think the press would have been interviewing him. You would think he'd been up on the telescreen and waving to the fans. And even in the press box, and they didn't even give him a good sky suite. It wasn't like at the 50-yard line. It was like over in a corner. It was ridiculous. He's wearing his hoodie and glasses, everything inside the press box, and they never have a frontal view of him. It's from the side. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's like they want people to question this stuff. And of course, it is being questioned everywhere. So even Damar Hamlin supposedly is tweeting out about the conspiracy theory. And then he just posts a ridiculous picture of himself in the same outfit where you can't see who he is, doing the Illuminati hand signal in front of a mural of him, as if that answers. He says something like clone. So, I mean, they're playing games with it. I don't know what, as I study this stuff longer, I don't even know what their rationale or motive is for doing this stuff. But based on the surface, my guess is he died and they didn't want to admit that any player died on the field. I mean, because that's what everybody thought, but it's going to they can't keep doing this every time.
No, they can't. This is going to be interesting. So Don, I'm going to be waiting to see this guy come out, on media somewhere. Chris, do you think they're doing this just to torture the critical thinkers like guys like us and, audience and what do you think?
Yeah, I watched the video and yeah, it was just convenient that different people's heads were like blocking his face when he's walking down the hallway, and then he's turning the corner. I didn't see the Illuminati signs, but I was waiting for that type of reporting to come out.
Yeah.
I just actually wanted to go back to. I know I keep bringing up the Sandy Hook thing, but in terms of people that are dead or not, Don, is there a way you can kind of tell Angry Tiger and everybody about Don Hawksprung, the principal?
Well, there's again, this is one of the many so-called mistakes, and you go back to JFK assassination, all these events. There are so many early reports in all these events that turn out to be mistaken, and some of the mistakes are incomprehensible. In this case, this one was there was a report out that Dawn Hochsprung was the principal of San Diego Elementary. She was supposedly one of the victims who died, one of the ones who was shot, one of the adults. But there was a report that broke out after the shooting where a local reporter described interviewing Dawn Hochsprung. And it was a pretty detailed interview. So it's hard to understand how you could make a mistake like that. But then how could the school nurse make a mistake that Adam Lanza's mother, Nancy Lanza, was a beloved kindergarten teacher at the school when she had no connection to the school, supposedly.
Right. And no one went back to the nurse either to ask her to clarify what does that mean. And then all of a sudden 60 Minutes has, like the week later, has a whole special. And who do they focus in on? Sally Cox, the nurse. And none of that stuff comes up.
No, none of it comes up because they don't. It's like you sent me something about Ray Epps, Chris. It's the same kind of thing where this is a guy who the mainstream media never does the rational thing or the normal thing that investigative journalists would do. In the case of Ray Epps, why have they treated him as a sympathetic figure and act like he's been harmed by conspiracy theorists when he should be their number one? He should be the guy on the wall of every post office, the FBI's most wanted. I mean, he's on the only one that I know that's on tape that is saying, let's go inside. And other people even chanting, Fed, Fed, Fed. They won't prosecute him. They question him sympathetically. The only witness they press is sympathetic. So it's the same kind of thing. Like they would make the school nurse, they would bring her in. They somehow weren't aware of that interview because they're not investigative journalists. If they're like us, we would be aware. Oh, the first thing we'd say is, well, you gave this interview to Andrea McCarran. What were you doing talking about? How would you make a mistake like that? Did who were you mistaking Nancy Lanza for somebody else? I mean, but they didn't do that. Instead, they just ignored it. And I think she told, I don't know how many different stories too, didn't she, Chris? She was hiding in under a table or whatever and saw the killer's legs, and then she was in a closet for hours.
He said she was in the closet for hours, but apparently the police were supposed to clear it out hours before that, and they would have opened up all the closets and everything. You'd think.
Yeah, you would think. You think they'd announce police.
How did she get lost in the closet for hours? What did she go to Narnia?
Here's the kicker, though. If you really think about it. The coroner, Wayne Carver, who has since passed away, he was doing a press conference the next morning, right? And of course, he's doing the over-the-top things that I can't prove whether or not he was nuts or whatever. But he's laughing. He's saying things that don't make sense. But here's the thing: I'm pretty sure that the Sandy Hook defamation trial, the second one there, with Alex, with Neil Breslin, the father. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that could have been thrown out if you really just go by this logic. Neil Breslin told Megyn Kelly that he was holding his dead child in his arms with a bullet hole in his head. But at that press conference the day after, Wayne Carver had said that none of the parents came in contact with their children and that Polaroids had to be used to identify. So one of the two are wrong. And that could have been used to. I'm not a lawyer, but does that make sense? That could have been thrown out.
Yeah.
And the old Alex Jones would have been like, I have the documents, I
Listen, this whole, I don't want anybody ever. My worst enemy. I support his free speech, right? And I listened to Alex Jones for a long time, a very long time. And to Don's point, he did a lot of waking up. I think it was more waking people up into a nightmare that wasn't healthy. And not getting into this in an educated, more healthy way for your frame of mind, right? But he had the chance at that trial. That was his chance of the lifetime. He had the world watching him. He could have, at least, even if he lost everything, got the word out of the truth of whatever he believed. He's not a man of principle. Then that's the one thing I can say confidently.
I've been studying him since the late 1990s, and it just hurts every time. I have people, I have friends, and I can't really argue with them that they credit him as waking them up. But I'm like, well, who's behind him though? Who gave him all that? He always brags about CIA people and his family and everything. People don't catch that.
Well, yeah, and that kind of gets us into the next thing. And ladies and gentlemen, you've heard these gentlemen, okay, and me. We're sitting here and our conversation of conjecture of what possible. We're not making any claims. We're looking at the things that are there for you to see, right? And one of those things, I bet you a lot of people didn't hear about this. You know, Ralph, you guys know who Ralph Blumenthal is, I'm sure. He came up with this. He exposed all this. They basically walked the shoe bomber on the plane. They basically built the bomb for him. You know,
well, that's the World Trade Center, 1993.
No, the World Trade Center. Excuse me.
That's a good example too.
That was another one I was looking at.
Yeah, there's so many of these.
Yeah. I mean, they found a guy that was halfway radicalized, and they finished the job.
But here's the thing, Tiger. Was he really radicalized? Because he actually said he didn't want the real explosives for that bomb.
Right. That's what he tried. Right. He tried to stop it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he taped himself.
Right. The guy doing it. Right.
Yeah. How radical is he?
Right.
I don't think his
hands I'm just, it's kind of like they look for certain kind of people like this, like what happened in my home state here. In the dirty glove of Michigan.
Most of those were FBI people.
But all these cases, Alex Jones and the certainly January 6 people, the Gretchen Whitmer, all that stuff, were showcased. I mean, Alex Jones, he should have done it the first trial. But again, I remember somebody sent me, and I don't know if I was talking to Chris much then. It might have been a long time ago. But when they did the original grand jury testimony for Sandy Hook. Somebody sent me the grand jury testimony of Paul Joseph Watson, Owen Schroyer, and Rob Dew. And Rob Dew is my supporter at InfoWars. He's the one that read Hidden History and had me on InfoWars and devoted a half hour to interviewing me about my book back in the day on InfoWars Nightly News. Wow. And he wrote a blurb for it. But so I was shocked. They were so disinterested. There was no passion. They were kind of shrugging. None of them brought up the First Amendment. And Paul Watson's usually full of fire and everything. And I thought, what the hell's going on here? But the very first trial and his
they didn't like Dave McGowan either. So just they're in good company.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But the very first trial, that should have been most of us would have loved to have gotten some of these people on the stand to cross-examine. And what Chris was talking about is a perfect example. But by the time the third trial rolled around, I don't know what the first trial was like, but I'm sure it was bad too. But by the time Jones's third trial, it was any kind. It was like it was a court out of Alice in Wonderland. The judge first of all had all over social media the LGBTQ flags and hating Trump and everything. So she hated Alex Jones to begin with.
And Alex is there. He's joking around with the parents too on the footage.
Yes.
And the mother goes and gets him a soda,
glass of water,
aspirin.
Yes. I mean, the whole thing was and his attorneys have been so bad. This Dino character. They never, but even if they did jump in, the judge would completely overrule their objections. I saw Owen Schroyer's testimony. It was half-assed. He kind of brought up what Chris was talking about. That should have been what his attorney did. What they should have, when that Neil Breslin talked about holding his kid, and of course, tremendously emotional, impactful thing. The jury's going to go crazy. But if you can't bring Wayne Carver up, but you can play the press conference where it says that parents didn't get to identify them strangely.
Jim Fetzer deposed him too on a very, very long video too at one point.
Did he?
I believe that was brought up too.
Okay, so I mean, and of course Fetzer, brings his own set of things there. But the problem is if you have a biased judge, I mean, keep in mind that the system, since that first Alex Jones trial, the legal system is so politicized now. Any of us, I tremble in fear at getting one of these courtrooms. Look what's happening to the J6 people. Look at the judges. Look at the judge, Amy Berman Jackson, that Roger Stone had. During the trial, the forewoman of the jury was tweeting and going on Facebook and everything during the trial and posting anti-Trump and anti-Roger Stone stuff. I mean, that would cause if that Roger Stone had been accused of being a serial killer, they would have caused a mistrial. She did nothing. Nothing happened. She refused. She thought there was nothing wrong with it. If you looked at Alex Jones, the last two judges he's had, that's the kind of those are the people we all should fear going up into court because there's nothing there. They have an agenda. They aren't interested in justice. It's politicized. They're not going to like you. And they don't care about the facts. And there's we know from our friend Lisa Belanger
Yeah.
what the legal world is like and how hard it is to get a good attorney. And I watch too many Perry Mason reruns. I'm thinking maybe there are people like that out there. And I know there's no civil libertarians, though. I think I'm only one left.
No.
So
Look at the January 6th Commission. Those people can't get a real trial now.
Well, Chris, let me ask you this, Chris. So, and you can chime in on this too after Chris, Don. Why do you think Alex's attorneys didn't take all the ammunition they had from all their investigations? These people are up on stands saying stuff that's contradictory to what we know is true, that really happened. Why didn't they use everything that they had to go after and defend Alex? Or why didn't they say that there's a conflict of interest? Look at this. You know, why? Why did his lawyers sit on their hands like that?
I can't prove this, so pure speculation. Just by me watching the guy for so long, I just came to the conclusion that it kind of backed up everything I thought all these years, is that he was playing his role, and that's why he didn't get up. I think that I even had looked into a claim that one of the lawyers was good friends with Eric Holder, who, people remember during Sandy Hook, there were questions whether or not Eric Holder had something like a meeting with the governor of Connecticut about school shooting drills right before Sandy Hook, and that kind of went away. So is there a connection? I couldn't find it, but is there a connection to his lawyers and Eric Holder? And Alex Jones, he would have to know that. He would. Right. He always has the documents. So I think he played a role like Trump played a role, like Obama plays a role, like Elon Musk is playing a role, Bill Gates. They're all puppets used, and they go along to get along. You look at Zuckerberg, even the social network, the Facebook movie. That's all fiction, because LifeLog was Facebook. The day that Facebook was launched, I believe LifeLog went offline. It was a Pentagon experiment. So that's the conclusion I have. And I know people say, oh, yeah, you can't back this up with him getting. My thing was always, I felt like he got access to Bohemian Grove and got to film it on. I think he was given that access, because anyone else would have got killed. And to get street cred with the conspiracy people and researchers, because now it's like I keep hearing how he gets like credited with opening people's eyes. I think that was on purpose. And Mr. Bill Cooper was warning about that, because he pretty much aped Bill Cooper's whole persona. Bill Cooper got his ass shot, for questioning the IRS and the income tax. So, and he actually did somewhat predict 9/11, but Alex took that credit a month later. And there's a video of both, but they're a month apart. And he's always about credit. And then the 9/11 stuff. Who gave him all this credible stuff? There's a lot of non-credible stuff he was pushing too, but it was a way to poison the well when it came to, do you question everything? Gay frogs, all that stuff. It's like,
well, exactly. Don, what do you think? You think the shtick that he had, right? You think it was just to make everybody look like, they listen to this guy. They're crazy. Don't listen to anything they say.
Sure. Well, I mean, it was a double-edged sword, because it also attracted a lot of people too, because he was, however else you want to look at him, he can be really funny.
Oh yeah.
Entertaining.
Very entertaining.
But the 9/11 truth movement, he was he was responsible for a lot of that. And
save some of it, Chris.
They ended up taking it down.
We're going to dissect Alex Jones with number 6. Don't forget, you got to save some of this stuff, man.
Yeah,
there's a lot there. So
there is, and I think that I just look at it like do we have it? We can take the good and bad from all sources. Yeah, Alex Jones has a lot of questionable connections. It's very questionable how he responded to Sandy Hook. His attorneys of choice were pretty questionable, but I don't know.
It's actually a non-response, Don. He gets blamed with that whole trying to get the parents harassed.
Yeah.
Well, he said very little about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole thing is ridiculous, because he was never extreme on Sandy Hook at all. I mean, he had Wolfgang Halbig on. He paid attention to it a little bit. He raised points like all of us did, but he wasn't, really irresponsible about it. So. And he does try to point that out, but the problem is, because he's of his ridiculous persona, it always comes through, so he always says something, I killed everyone. Okay, just blame me. I did it all, that kind of stuff.
Right.
where people can make fun of it. But I think that it's important to understand symbolically what he represents. But even if he had picked, even if he had Perry Mason, the real Perry Mason is his attorney, or Mark Lane was still alive, my civil libertarian hero.
This was going to happen.
Yeah, this is going to happen because they're still walking into a courtroom where one of those judges is going to be sitting in there. And so there's, what are you going to do? And you have prosecutors. I mean, this goes back to, I've written about the Lindbergh baby kidnapping and the framing of Bruno Richard Halpin back in the 1930s, where he, as a German, he didn't understand our system of justice because America likes to brag about everything's the best, but our system of justice, I mean, I don't know what it's like in other countries really, but here it's just competitive. And it's not, they're not interested in justice. The prosecution certainly isn't interested. Yeah. All they want to do is win, especially a high profile case like Alex Jones. No prosecutor wants to lose that because they want to win. Hey, I prosecuted Alex Jones. And it's wrong because theoretically they shouldn't be competing with each other. And it shouldn't, your ability to be free shouldn't depend on whether or not you can get a competent enough lawyer. It should be the people in charge, the judge. And really, I would go with something like a 3-judge panel or something and just have them, we're interested in the truth here. We're not on either side. We want to get people that are really bad and punish them, but we don't want to punish anybody where there's a reasonable doubt. And it's just a shame because now the Alex Jones thing or the January 6th thing, it proves beyond a shadow of doubt the courts are closed to us. And certainly Lisa Belanger's experience shows, and some of the guests I've had on my show, that it's rotten from top to bottom. So I don't know where you go. The legal system's closed off to us. The elections are closed off to us because they're either not counting the votes or people really are that stupid to keep voting for 96% of these people back in office. So I don't know where we go. I don't know where we go.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Chris,
we can't even go to the hospital anymore.
No,
I feel like I'm dying. I know what's the last place I want to go now.
And let me tell you, let me explain something, gentlemen. I've been in a large institution ran by the government. You don't want that to happen. You will get swallowed alive by the government, and you will never be seen. They can make you never seen from again. When I was there, I'm like, I hope they don't lose me, right? But back to the Alex Jones thing. To me, enigma wrapped in bacon. There's lots of bad. There's some good. But there's one thing for sure.
If they want to get money, and if they want to get rich, and if they want to get life, you gotta be a son of a boom, 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 boom.
You rock, dude.
I like the way you put that in. Very professional.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember that. I mean, I don't know if Chris has ever seen that movie, but it's a great spaghetti western.
Oh,
with Lee Van Cleef starring.
That was him. Yeah, that we just saw. Yep.
Yeah. But now let's fast forward to now in our community and what's going on inside the social media. This is from some other How to Think for Yourself. This guy's pretty left leaning, but I did glean this from the article just to prove the point. This is all possible because of algorithms, the personalized, curated news information and learning feeds we consume several times a day have all been through a process of collaborative filtering. This is principle that if I like X and you and I are similar in some algorithmic determined sense, then you will probably like X too. Everyone gets their own masked, personalized feed rationed by the machines. So the reason I bring that up is they have these algorithms, John, they're so smart, they can almost tell the future. They're reading everybody's minds. Then they're using that in social engineering, most likely through a lot of COINTELPRO operations, like we just went over, and now, we don't know if Alex Jones is one or not, or co-opted or whatever. And now fast forward to this day, we've got these algorithms reading people's mind and feeding people stuff. You could radicalize somebody easily or make them look like they're radical or attach them to a radical person with these stupid algorithms.
Well, Neuralink too. Literally put a chip in your head.
Well, yeah. Let's wait till that happens. But yeah, that's some real that's some transhumanist, Elon Musk, his whole family transhumanist, and that's another story.
And even before the internet, they succeeded in trying to pigeonhole people. They gave them two alternatives. They threw a couple alternatives out there. If they're, most people I don't know about most people now because of Trump. That's another thing. He did open up pretty much everyone to politics because everybody either loved or hated him. They reacted to the stimuli. But before Trump, there was a vast amount of people out there that were probably the smartest ones of all who realized, politics, screw that. I don't want anything to do with politics. Because I'm at that point, I think now. But the people that gravitated to politics reacted to one of two, liberal or conservative, and they each have their own issues. And so you get pigeonholed there. You can't see beyond the partisanship. And that still exists to some degree. But of course, with Trump, that is really, I was reading, I still go back to the JFK forums sometimes just to see what and they've gone ballistic over there ever since Tucker Carlson came on and said the CIA killed Kennedy. They don't know what to do because they've been saying that for decades,
Right?
But they hate him. And so they're apoplectic. They're almost getting ready to say Oswald did it because they don't know what to do. And they hate it so much. And now they love the CIA and the FBI. Again, this is the world I came from. But because of Trump and everything, I actually, I've seen a bunch of them on there. They're arguing about Biden and Trump. And it's unbelievable. They were talking about, I think Biden is, they objected to one of the few rational people there saying, Biden's a joke, he's an embarrassment. What are you talking about? He's a really decent human being. And they love this guy. And
he wrote the Patriot Act.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
And Chris will tell you, my friend Maria Heller, who I love, she was a big supporter on, but she's been sucked into this world and something she never was. And she told, I believe, Chris, she said, Al Gore would have been a great president. And she said, the economy was great under Bill Clinton. It's like, I did interviews with her where we talked about the Clinton body count and all the massive corruption during the Clinton years. So this is the effect we've had, because you got to factor in Trump, because Trump, even though he appears to be going away, I just wrote something on Substack about the end. Are we at the end of the Trumpenstein project? I think we are, but it doesn't matter because Trump now, just him being there, has polarized everybody, and he's got that other side, the woke side. Now they like the FBI. Now they like the CIA. Now they love all war now. Really love war. They love Zelensky, all this stuff, because they perceive somehow that Trump is against it, which may or may not to be true, because Trump said all kinds of things. But that's where we are now, man. We're stuck in, and so our world, I know from my supporters, so many people that I had Ashley Babbitt's mother on my show. She still loves Trump. I don't know what to say. I wasn't going to argue with the poor woman, and she's very courageous. She's still going out there, and she got arrested on the anniversary of the daughter's death for jaywalking. They decided, just taking a final indignant swipe at this poor woman who's going out there. And but
like with the Q thing, these people, they don't have any more hope. So it's hard to really.
That's their savior. I don't know if Don. I'm religious, so I have a savior, but he's not here on this earth, right?
Right. Me too.
You know what I mean? That to them, they think that the president can fix everything, and thanks to Cambridge Analytica, right?
Yeah,
that's what I got up on screen right now. This is Billy Ray Valentine, host of America Unplugged. Yeah. What else has he got? The Fringe? Is it the Fringe or is it
the Infinite Fringe?
Yeah.
The Infinite Fringe. He's spearheading a couple other things, but he's the one that brought up the Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, Cambridge Analytica, everybody knows they built the Trump. They even fooled me. I'm looking at this, and I'm like, look, listen to this guy talk about the New World Order, on his campaign page, and dude, it was like John Birch mixed with Rothbard mixed with Ron Paul, and I'm reading it, and you know why? Because they did this right here. This is just real quick. Ingest data and audience profiles from the data team. In other words, they scanned all the social media, what the people on the left, what the people on the right, mainly people on the right and libertarian-minded people. They went after them. They devised communications to talk to these people. Look how they got us broke down like we're an experiment. Yeah. Literally, this is I understand science and all that, and I get it, and I, as a salesman, you want analytics and all that, but it's almost like they're experimenting on us, like we're mice using our Pavlovian responses and our passions and our humanity against us, Don. And it really burned my tail.
It really does. And they took Trump's rhetoric. I knew Trump from way back. I knew who he was, and I thought this is the most unlikely populist in the history of the world. But when Roger Stone, I talked to Roger Stone because he loved hidden history, and he contacted me and said, "You're gonna love Trump. He knows about all the conspiracies." And he was saying, look, I've known him for 30 years. He was, he saw all this happening behind the scenes. He made all his money, but he didn't like what was going on. So now he's trying to do something about it. I thought, well, I guess, that's about the only hope we would have, is that some billionaire would not like what he saw behind the scenes, and maybe because nobody else has access to it. But I doubted it very seriously. But yeah, boy, the Cambridge Analytica, he knew what to say, but he tapped into that populism. Bernie Sanders did to some degree too.
Yeah.
And if a real candidate, that's why Huey Long still, if Huey Long could come back today, you can't stop populism. There's no answer for it.
No,
so
they hate it.
Yeah, they hate it because they can't argue with it. There's no answer against, get your own house in order before you go trotting all over the world. There's no answer saying, why are we taking care of Ukraine's border instead of our own border? Why are we letting the country crumble? We're not building up the infrastructure, but we're giving, $80 billion to Ukraine, or you people are voting yourself pay raises and the pork barrel projects. All that's populism 101, and it sells. But the problem is because it appeals naturally to most people. And that's why, even though Trump was a distasteful voice for it, I mean, he wasn't real articulate, but the message was so strong that, nobody else was saying it. So it definitely sold. And obviously people still to this day are loyal to him. But the saddest part of Trump is that now, because of Cambridge Analytica, unless they decide to have another fake populist, the next populist that comes along is going to be compared to Trump. Right. And they're just going to smear him. The last time we had a guy talking about this, putting America first.
I mean, he was a great tool for them, Chris.
Well, yeah. I just two things here. It came out, and Billy Ray on America Unplugged played this tape. Steve Bannon was secretly recorded on election night saying that they were going to protest anyway the results, whether they won or not. Right. And they were going to say it was stolen, and there was this whole thing. So, like the whole Trump thing, that's just a bunch of BS. And I'll give you this one last thing here. There was footage on 9/11, 2001, of Donald Trump calling into a TV station in New York, and he brings up the fact that he was a building engineer. Well, he's Mr. Real Estate, so he's very familiar with how buildings are made and how they're demolished. And he brought up the question on the air that I think there were other things besides the planes. Mm-hmm. He thinks that there were bombs or explosives put in the towers. My question, my little conspiratorial brain goes to this. Were they grooming him to be the conspiracy theorist president back then even? Because at the time he was exploring the whole idea of being president. He even went to Minnesota with Jesse Ventura when he was still governor of Minnesota. As a possible running mate, in 2000. So I'm wondering if this Cambridge Analytica thing goes all the way back because I really feel like even with Obama, I don't think he was, the whole birther thing. I don't think that he was born in Kenya or whatever. I have no idea. I think that guy didn't have a past up until 2003.
No. Yeah, he was extremely.
I think they select these guys decades in advance, and that's how I feel about it.
I'm on the same boat you guys are in. I'm in that boat too, and he was so eloquent and everything else. And then then we had a lull there for a second. Then we get Trump, right? You go from Shakespearean, semantical lexicons from Obama to the carnival barking macabre used car salesman.
9/11's an inside job. I'm going to release all the JFK documents. I'm going to do this. All he did was tweet. He tweeted, and then someone asked him recently at his golf tournament with the Saudis there, what would you do? Do you think we should look back into 9/11? He goes, yeah, I don't, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, yeah, the people really responsible, he said a whole bunch of things. It was like, well, you had 4 years, guy. What happened?
It's like he wasn't president. Yeah. Only been president. But the problem we have is
Hey Don, we might have to go a couple minutes over. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I was going to point out that the problem is that with just being in the world to the degree I am, I have connections to something when you talked about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon now has become really tight with Naomi Wolf. She's on the War Room all the time, and Naomi Wolf wrote a foreword to one of my books, so I'm tied to her. She invited me to her books launch party last year, and I got to meet her. Roger Stone, who I thought was really cool when he wrote the foreword to the paperback of Hidden History, because at that time it did me more good than bad. Now it brings me probably more negative attention than positive, but Roger Stone
you even endorsed Cynthia McKinney to be Trump's running mate, right?
Yeah, yes. What I did is because Cynthia McKinney is very cool, and I don't know, they'll probably find out something about her. I don't know. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard people talk about everybody. She's my favorite politician.
Dick Cheney too. That's
Yeah.
probably why she's not in office anymore.
Yeah, well, I asked her before Trump had picked Pence. I was messaging with her on Facebook, and I just said, "Hey, I think you'd be the perfect choice for Trump's VP. You could bring everybody together." And she said, "I'd love that." I'm not going to say his name, but I messaged my only connection to Trump, and he shot it down very quickly, and said, over my dead body, basically, and called her a communist. So I thought, okay, I don't know what that is, but because that could have been a really unifying ticket, and it would have killed any talk about Trump being racist, because Cynthia McKinney is as radical as it gets. Nobody can claim she's like, an Uncle Tom or something. And but it didn't happen. But people even question Ron Paul, who wrote forward to one of my books. They question all these people.
Yeah, I know. I've worked for Ron Paul for both campaigns. I mean, he's the one that woke me up and got me into all of this stuff. And I would hate to think it, even me. Okay, I'm like you guys. I question everything, but I would hate to think that Ron Paul's, part of the, what is it, CNAC or CPAC or whatever that is, and that they run him,
John Brisham's he talks about all the time. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. It's like the CFR for right wingers. Because every time I mention somebody says, "Oh, he's a member," so apparently they're all members. Tucker Carlson, all of them. But I don't know. I just look at it's when I have it, like if they agree to write a forward to my book. I mean, I don't know what it says about Roger Stone, but he put his name on Hidden History, and I can't be much more radical than I was in that book. So I don't know what that says about him. Is he legitimate? And when he came on my show again a few years back, and he said his wife had just given him a Christmas present of crimes and cover-ups. It
was right before he was supposed to go to jail. It was like
oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know, what that means. I never hear from him otherwise. Naomi Wolf doesn't get back to me that often. Ron Paul, certainly I don't have it in my beck and call. I have to go through.
I think with the Roger Stone thing, you served your purpose, Don, for the Trump campaign with the conspiracy people. I really think that they utilize, people like yourselves, like to get their candidate, their puppet in there, and that's all that Trump would ever do. The talking points, fake news, 9/11,
right.
And then what he said? What was the guy that he said his father was the one that shot Kennedy?
Ted Cruz. Yeah.
Danger.
Well, my favorite is how he mentioned Vince Foster a couple of times and said, some people think he was murdered.
He went farther than that. He was talking about Scarborough's.
He told Scarborough too, but the Vince Foster thing, he says that, and then his second Supreme Court nominee is Brett Kavanaugh, who led the cover-up into Vince Foster's murder. It's like he didn't know that. Come on, I mean, that's what I mean about the whole thing. Trump is. That's why it's the Trumpenstein project, man. Just
remember, Trump was on the Lolita Express as well as Bill Clinton.
Yes,
exactly. And ladies and gentlemen, the whole point of like this whole show. There's a legend here, a key. Basically, we're on social media right now, our community. All the listeners of all these different shows, we're all pretty much like-minded, right? And free thinkers. And we have to be on our toes. We have algorithms working against us. We have agencies, think tanks who have psychologists and have all this stuff, that where they know about the human mind and how to trigger responses. If you're sitting there and your feed's making you angry, something's wrong. Like here's a great example, Rescue Dog 66, who she listens to all, the Don Jeffries show. She's in, America Unplugged, David Knight, everybody, she's great. Right. And she retweets. She's very active. Right. And I think she's friends with Lisa too. So, but I was super happy to see her. I think it was yesterday. she's like, I got white on or black on white crime in my feed for the last 3 days. All they're trying to do is make me, all this is divisive, right? She recognized it. She got it. She's seen through the algorithm. She's seen through the COINTELPRO. She's seen through all that, and she did not let it affect her mind. And the problem is, what happened to you, Rescue Dog? Someone that you retweeted, and probably some conservative on the right, has a lot of that in their feed. You got linked up with them algorithmic. It's not your fault. We all do this, right? It's not your fault. And bang, that's how you got all that crap on you. Another thing that happens though is say I like somebody's feed, they post something about Ron Paul that I love, but the guy, he's part of the Aryan National Front, the guy that posted it, he's a white supremacist, and that algorithm sees that. Well, it might not send me all a bunch of white supremacist stuff, but now, kind of like a conspiracy case that the government can have against you, now you're grouped in with that that algorithm. And if you're shadow banned, you're going to get shadow banned further. So we have to be very careful. It's a bear trap. It is a bear trap, and it has varying degrees from what you see in your algorithm to the FBI trying to get you to, kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. So we have to be, I want the community to be conscious of this stuff. Check out who they're listening to, who they're retweeting, and just, and like Don says, I mean, don't be a Nazi to yourself about it. Be like, oh, I can't do this. I mean, you don't have to be super strict about it, because, you're not espousing that person's other opinions, but algorithmically, we have to be extremely careful. Somebody gets on in your message or starts promoting violence, all flags should go up. That's the main thing I want to tell everyone listening.
That's the other thing too. There's a script for divide and conquer, disinfo things, and throughout the years, especially I think with JFK, I believe so. But with the modern day thing with 9/11 truth, you have to look out for people that are trying to tell you that like the Jews did everything, or they use the same script, but they say the Vatican.
It's the Vatican.
Yeah, they do this, but it's the same script to lure you in to this, not honeypot, but just they do this thing to, if you like Angry Tiger just said, if your algorithms are even affiliated with them, it's like you can't get that stink off you, like, ever.
Yes, right, exactly. Hey guys, so we're getting pretty long in the tooth here, no pun intended. So what I would like to do is say hello to all the beautiful people on Twitter. So we got Gardner Goldsmith. Thanks for being here, man. Wow, that's awesome. We got Vince Agnelli. He says, "Can you dig it?" We got the lovely Rhonda Tate. She says, "Good to see you all."
Love Rhonda.
You got Vince Agnelli again. He's giving you kudos here, Chris. We got Rescue Dog. All the world is a stage. I agree with Chris. Alex was playing a role, controlled opposition. We got Jason Barker, the super producer and co-host of Knights of the Storm, and super host or future host of The Foxhole. So we got Jason Barker. Can you ask Don how the publisher is coming with his book they are sitting on? Any news on the book, Don?
Hidden History 3. Well, Skyhorse moves very slowly. They've done that with all my books, the ones they published and the ones they didn't publish, because they're my first publisher, so I have to I'm contractually obligated to send them right of first refusal, and they take a long time. But I think they're interested because my publicist asked me last week or the week before. He just said, "Yeah, Hidden History has really good numbers still." I said, "Okay," and he said, "Well, who would you want to write the foreword? Do you have any idea?" So I guess that's a good sign. They haven't sent me a contract. So I gave them my top 3 choices. And again, I shot big, and this is not an endorsement of any of them, but I told them Oliver Stone, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or Tucker Carlson.
Right.
So those are big names, and, it doesn't mean any. So I guess if Tucker Carlson somehow writes the foreword to my book, I don't know what that'll say about me, but at least I'll probably get on his show. So I'm shooting big, and that's what I always, because I don't change my, I don't change what I say if Rachel Maddow asked me on, I would go on her show. But I'm certainly not going to, it doesn't mean I like anything about her, but I'm going to say the same thing, regardless if I'm on there or if Louis Farrakhan had a podcast or whatever. I'm
going to maintain the integrity of your message because you have integrity.
I'm just going to, I'm not going to change with it. So if those people want to have me on, that's why I never say no to anybody, because if they want to have me on, sure. I'm happy to come on.
Nice. Let's see who else we got here. We got Little John, the lumberjack of liberty. Rescue dog. Do you think the J6 and the treatment of the prisoners is meant to install fear and shut down future protests? What do you think, Chris?
100%. That was like the Sandy Hook trap, in my opinion. Sandy Hook and the lawsuits and all that stuff, in my opinion, just looking at it, looking back, and what has happened since, was to discourage any real truth seekers from actually asking questions. January 6th. That, in my opinion, was set up to instill fear in people from wanting to assemble, which was their right. And I mean peacefully, not, with violence. And it basically it's basically succeeded, because there's a lot of people that used to be open to the idea of protesting. Now they'd rather just stay home and say, I don't want to be thrown away.
No, it's a languish in a horrible federal holding facility. Oh my God. I can just imagine that's got to be a horrible place to be. Who else do we got here that I did not mention? We got Lisa S. Bellinger. Of course,
Hello,
the hurricane, the hurricane in a bottle. She is something else.
Yeah.
Hey, Lisa. So, guys, I guess that brings us to it's time to plug. So the first thing we're going to plug is this is going to be fairly quick. Ladies and gentlemen, we got friends. One of them's David Knight. He's got davidknight.gold. Everybody would appreciate if you support David Knight, because where you do, you go there and you get your daily news, geopolitics and all that. And you don't have to fiddle faddle with anybody else. I mean, you can fiddle faddle and get the temperature, but he's going to bring you what you really need to know. You go to davidknight.gold, then you're going to hit Gold Pack. You're going to join Wolf Pack. Then you're going to get brought over to the Angels over at wisewolf.gold. Tony Arterburn, Enzi, totally trustworthy, cheapest pricing on the internet. We check. And the great thing about them is you don't have to be Donald Trump to be able to afford and save, prepare. Don't think about preparing. Don't say you're going to prepare. Start preparing financially if you can. And $50 a month, you can trim the budget and come up with $50 a month, maybe the change jar or something, and get you some silver and start holding on to it. And 125, 225 goes all the way up to 1,000. That's definitely a way to go. So David Knight, davidknight.gold, Wise Wolf Gold. You want to check these guys out. Check out the Arterburn transmission, which we're going to go to next. What we got is the Friends of the Knights of the Storm. And you go to the Knights of the Storm website, you can find this here, and you can find the program scheduling for everyone. And we've got a read page here that Jason. So the program scheduling is great. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. You find David Knight, Liberty Conspiracy, Guard Goldsmith. We got I Protest up on there. I believe we have Digging Chris Graves, Get Mad with Chris Graves. So, when people have a platform and they have a schedule, you can find it if they're friends of the Knights of the Storm. This will be updated as people, add their programming schedules. Look, here's a list of all the great people on Substack. Here's a list of a bunch of great books to read. We got Vince, we got Don's, we got, Gardner Goldsmith's books up there. So back to, the friends. You want to check out all the friends of the Knights of the Storm, ladies and gentlemen. David Knight, I already mentioned him. America Unplugged, the triple threat. You got the legendary Don Jeffries. You got Billy Ray Valentine, the East Coast host with the most. And you got Tony Arterburn, the wisest of the wolves. So they have a lot of fun. It's at 12 noon on Rockfin, Eastern time. You got the Arterburn transmission. Eric Peters, I'm a car guy. I love Eric's articles. I go to his Substack all the time. You want to check out Eric Peters. You got Gardner Goldsmith. He's got Liberty Conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, on Rockfin. And when you go to Rockfin, you guys smash that like button. I see 60 people watching and 3 likes. Come on. This is we got to be part of the algorithm, ladies and gentlemen. We have to share. We have to tag. We have to break the algorithm, lift the barbed wire up, crawl underneath it. Come on, game the system. That's what we need to do. They've been gaming us for a long time. Don't feel bad about it. Charlie Robinson, Macroaggressions Redacted. New Prisoner, number 6. The Master of Monologue. And, of course, the legendary Chris Graves, the interdimensional researcher, all there at Knights of the Storm. Just go there, check out Friends of the Knights of the Storm. Next, Don Jeffries. Where can the good folks find you at?
That's my website, donaldjeffries.media. Then my Substack is there, donaldjeffries.substack.com. If you haven't subscribed, please do. That's where I write regularly, and that's where I'm concentrating most of my efforts now since I'm shadow banned everywhere else.
Excellent. Chris?
Yeah,
we got your link tree up here, brother. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me at Twitter, I think.
Yep.
It's still kind of in the Twitter jail, but Sam Tripoli helped me with that a little bit. It's C. Graves Mask Guy at Twitter. And you can find my show, Get Mad with Chris Graves, on the Uccelli.com network. Go there and, if you can, donate, support free speech. And also with Free World FM, Billy Ray and Tony's, they're launching that soon. Just sign up for that. And I got my Digging Chris Graves shows. They usually go live on my Twitter page. And then my good friend Six at the New Prisoners, where I'm there every Thursday for the live stream at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Get Mad with Chris Graves is going to start the second week of February, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And support Don's chair.
Nice. Yeah, we got to support Don's chair for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Angry Tiger, and this is the Tiger's Den. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm on Spreaker. I've got my Substack. My videos will be up there. I'll be doing a lot of shorts. I'll be doing on Friday nights, probably around 8 p.m. I'm going to be doing 8 or 9 p.m. And it's I'll be recorded. It'll be on all this other stuff, but I'm going to be doing a financial short for everybody. And then we're on Rumble, DLive, Odyssey. So those are the great places that you can find us at and me at. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for tuning into the first Tiger's Den. I'd like to thank Don Jeffries and Chris Graves for being so gracious and coming here and actually talking with me on a very important subject for the community. I want Free World FM. Billy Ray's starting this up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try to support it. We'll blast it out on Twitter. We got to push each other, guys. The viewers, push your shows. Push the people that we know who they are. Push them. We got to cross promote. We got to stick together. The left and the conservatives are kicking our patoots up one side of the barn and down one side of that, the valley. We have.
They're all the same. Divide and conquer.
Yeah, we've got to do what they do. They push each other's stuff. We haven't even begun to do this yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, just try to be chipper. Oh, hey, everybody want to laugh real quick? Won't take long.
Yes.
Now, I have a weird sense of humor. I think Don might appreciate this. I don't know. Check it out.
Why don't you take that money and invest it in something? Why don't you do that?
Invest it in what?
There's wonderful land values outside of Dodge. Now, why don't you go out there someplace, look around, and buy yourself a lot?
A lot of what?
A lot. A lot of land.
Well, fiddle, I can't afford to buy a lot of land. You probably could, the way you've been bilking and gouging folks here in Dodge.
I'm trying to help you, for heaven's sakes. It don't cost a whole lot to buy a little lot.
What do you mean? It don't cost a whole lot to buy a little or a whole lot to buy a lot? What do you mean?
Well, I mean a little lot of land.
But there ain't no such a thing. A little's a little and a lot's a lot. There ain't no little lot or lot of little, don't you see? Now, you want that beer or don't you?
No, I'm all worn out.
Who's on first? Who's on second?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But I always want to end the show with a funny, guys. On a good note and with some hope. Ladies and gentlemen, time is your most valuable commodity. Spend it improving yourself. Spend it with someone you love. Spend it doing something you love, or preferably all three of those things. And thank you very much for tuning in to Knights of the Storm. Or See that? And tune in to Knights of the Storm at 10 a.m. Saturday Eastern Time. Every Saturday, 10 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Until we meet again. Your time is your most valuable commodity. Cherish it and use it wisely. Until we meet again.